Hi everybody, Brendan Dennehy here, founder of the Fatherhood Programme and author of the book Fed, Funded and Ferried, A Father's Guide to Happy Children. Here at the Fatherhood Programme we celebrate the joys of fatherhood and all things paternal, and we love mums too, that's important. You might remember the themes that we keep peppering through all these short videos. There's 3 of them in fact. The first one being confidence and how we need to look after our confidence, and it's a bit like checking the oil in the engine. If the oil or your confidence runs low, you're heading for rocky shores there. So confidence is something that's a little bit nebulous. You can't just pull it out of your back pocket. It needs to be minded and nurtured. Okay. The next thing we talked about was well-being, and I'm absolutely thrilled, and I hope you are too, that organisations like the World Health Organization and the New Zealand government and so on have started putting our well-being, your well-being, our children's well-being centre stage in promoting policy and formulating policy. This is so important because it's all the one system, the mind and the body, it's all the one system, and so if we're stressed or anxious about something, it affects us physiologically too. So well-being, it's wonderful to see it going centre stage. And of course it's all about the future. We certainly live in the most extraordinary of times, a global pandemic and so on, but there is a future out there, and the quicker you move to seeing that future and maybe stop grieving about what was normal before, so we've all had our plans cast aside, but there is a future out there, and so while it's understandable to be even grieving about the things that we've lost, there is a future out there, and the sooner we focus on it, the better our confidence and our well-being will improve as well. I've been having a lot of conversations recently with people who talk about the at-home workers, people who suddenly find themselves because of circumstances working at home, and it's a very interesting space, isn't it? If someone said to you 6 or 7 weeks ago that most of the workforce would be working from home, nobody would have believed you. But yet and all, here we are. And so here's this adjustment that has to take place as well. So all of us in our world of work are fundamentally doing 3 things. Whether you're a plumber or a paediatrician, you're doing one of 3 things at work. You're either solving problems, all of us are familiar with that. We're solving problems, adding value, or alleviating suffering. Now, I can't spell alleviating, so I'm going to fake this one, but you understand what I mean, alleviating suffering. So, for instance, where I work, I send out videos from time to time to my trainees, separate to these ones, and it solves a problem in terms of I can deliver my class online, and because I'm not in the lecture theatre, obviously. It's adding value because the trainees come back to me and say, yeah, Brendan, we enjoyed, keep it going, and so on. Most of them, not all of them. I'm not Elvis or anything like that. And alleviating suffering, a lot of them would express the view that it's nice to see a familiar face, and even though it's only through the lens of a camera, nonetheless they know I'm speaking to them, and we have this rapport, and we can talk on the phone afterwards and all of that. So the world of work has turned on its head, hasn't it? But no matter what your occupation, you're either solving problems, adding value, or alleviating suffering. And there's a friend of mine, and he's got a son, and like that his son worked in some agency, or is working in some agency, but he's now at his kitchen table at home. He's got 2 screens, he's got a headset, and he's like an air traffic controller. He seems to be very busy, and what's interesting about it, he seems to be quite competent at what he's doing too. Now I think what's happened in the fact that the world just kind of took a bit of a shrug is that events have forced him to do something that he wouldn't have done before, but he's discovered what we would call his unique ability. And so he's a hero really to his workplace, because he suddenly found this thing that he can do better than anybody else. He's just very good at operational stuff, organising, coordinating. He obviously has some innate IT skills as well. And his employer is absolutely thrilled with him, and why wouldn't they be? He's working weekends and everything. Now I happen to know this young man, he's a delightful young man, but he wouldn't have been the most motivated in work in the past, but suddenly he's found his mojo, which is extraordinary, isn't it really? And he can only operate like that, work at weekends, and he's quite committed to it actually, if he can see a future somewhere in that. And working to his unique ability, and if you can find yours, and even more importantly, help your children find theirs too, that'll feed into their future, but it'll also feed into their well-being. They'll just like what they do. When you like what you do, it's not work at all, it's just stuff that you do, it's your occupation. Not to mention that it all feeds eventually into your confidence too. So remember, if you're at home and you're struggling a little bit, this is not easy. And I was talking to one lady in HR, and she told me that of a workforce of about 140, about 50 of them said they actually can't return to work. But despite that, they'd actually launched some new product and continued with their productivity right through the lockdown. So there are no question but that there are challenges in the new dispensation. But again, if you're prepared to change, if you're prepared to solve problems, add value, alleviate suffering, and it might be something completely different to what you were doing before. I mean, I wasn't prepared to send videos out to my trainees and all of that, but I had to flex. And we don't like flexing, actually. We like things to kind of potter along the way. It's a very human trait. But your workforce, as we mentioned in the last video, is like a mastermind group. And when people, more than one or two people get together and look at the current situation, they can adapt very quickly. When each of them finds and works to their unique ability, it feeds into a bigger, better, brighter future, it promotes well-being, and then it grows people's confidence as well. So all of these themes are something that maybe wouldn't have come to the fore if it wasn't for the current difficulty we're going through. So remember, the suffering at some level is a bit like the diamond in the rough. It may take a lot of mining before one finds it, but if you can stay well, if you can continue to solve problems and add value and alleviate suffering in whatever context that is. So you could have been a plumber one day and you're not plumbing anymore, you're doing it over the phone. I don't know. Nobody, and beware actually too, here's another little top tip of anybody who says they have all the answers, including me. Nobody has all the answers. But we've got to remain well, we've got to keep our confidence going, and we've got to believe that there is a bigger and better, brighter future out there. So I hope you found these videos helpful. This is Brendan from fatherhood.ie, and if you have any comments or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.